Hello, today we are going to do a very brief tutorial of OKRs, Objectives and Key Results, so you can learn a little bit more about what they are and how they differ from all of the other acronym-based goals, SMART goals, KPIs, MBOs, all of the other pieces that have come in the past. So we will go ahead and dive right in. And before we get started, I will give you a brief tutorial on how I can help you and your team or other businesses like you. I am focused on helping you turn your strategy into action. I work with OKR goal setting methodology as well as many other components to allow you to prioritize what matters most to your business and create a strategy that will eradicate the root cause of your challenges and increase engagement, alignment, and effectiveness within your teams. Before we dive into OKRs specifically, I'll take a minute to ground us in the anatomy of our organizational strategy. So strategy a lot of times gets thought of as just goals or priorities. Maybe that's a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, or a 5-year goal. There's actually a lot more to the strategy. The strategy starts with your vision. Now, your company vision usually does not change too often because that is truly your focus. That's how you win in the market, and that's how you differentiate yourself from your competitors. The guiding principles piece are your anchors. They're your North Stars that allow you to make strategic trade-offs and equip you with the decision-making lens to pursue what is going to help you achieve your vision on an annual basis. And then the OKRs, which is what we are here to talk about today, are the what and the how. What are we doing and how are we going to get there? One of the most important factors about OKRs is having a growth mindset. So I like to say that OKRs are about 49% process and slightly more with 51% people. If we go into OKRs and create a standard operating cadence, we have our 5-step process that we employ each year. We use the definitions of objectives and key results to create really inspirational key results and outcome-based targets. And we don't have that iterative, continuously changing, learning from mistakes mindset that incorporates that growth sort of accountability. We will not gain success. So if you're just starting on this journey, I would encourage you to think about how your organization views failure and find ways to increase the psychological safety among your teams so people will feel comfortable surfacing mistakes, taking risks, and knowing that we will be able to learn, adjust, and iterate throughout the year in order to achieve our strategic objectives. There are 3 different components of OKRs, and we will get into each component in a little bit more detail. To give you a high-level overview, the objective statements are your statements of intent. I like to say they are what you want to be true at the end of the year. So if you project yourself into the future and you think, what do I want the organization to look like and feel like by the end of the year? You will put those into statements to become your objectives. Your key results are the metrics. Now, we will talk about output versus outcome here in a little bit, but the most important piece of your key results is that they are metrics that indicate success towards your objectives. So you want to be able to look at your metrics and get a pretty good idea of whether you're tracking to completing those objectives by the end of the year. And then the initiative piece are the actions, the projects, the tasks that your team decides to prioritize in order to meet your annual objectives. With this goal setting methodology, there's a new muscle that we have to exercise. So, traditionally, many organizations start with the actions, and their teams work really hard throughout the year, completing a variety of actions, projects, tasks that we hope by the end of the year will make our objective statements true or help us reach our strategic goals. There might be a couple of checkpoints throughout the year, but typically there's no reworking of our metrics or analyzing, are we really doing the right type of work to help us meet our objectives? So that's kind of that wishful thinking methodology. Let's cross our fingers and hope that we can meet our strategic goals. What we're doing with OKRs is starting from the top and going down. So we're first creating a vision of what we want our organization to be like the end of the year with our objective statements, finding new ways to measure that, and then prioritizing our actions in order to help us become more likely to meet our objective statements. So to get us started, we will talk about the building blocks. So the objective statement is typically a 1-year perspective. Your objectives may remain for over a year, but I like to say, let's just think about 1 year in advance because of how quickly things change with customers, in the market, the economy. There's so many shifts that can happen even just in 1 year. So think about that from a 1-year perspective. And objective statements are meant to be aspirational and inspirational. They don't have numbers in them, and they're also short, memorable statements that people can recite, usually off the top of their heads, when asked, what is the company trying to achieve this year? Your key results, which you will have several for each objective, lets you know how you're successful. They are typically built in a from to metric format where you say, we're going to take our starting value and hope that we achieve this end result value. The key results also want to be our best possible, not our most probable. And this goes back to the mindset piece I talked about in the beginning. A lot of times we set our ideal metrics based on what we think we're likely to achieve because we want to see the achievement, the success, the green light at the end of the year. However, I'm encouraging you in this OKR building process to create key results that are a little bit out of reach. So that way you can know how you're tracking towards each of those high target aspirations throughout the year. And if you don't end up achieving it, you can still celebrate the success and the learning that comes from that. And then lastly, the initiatives are actions that directly support your key results and will therefore help you meet your objectives. So I like to encourage teams to look at the full scope of work that they might have slotted on their roadmap or in their project management tools for the year and assess each of those projects or tasks by how well is this aligned towards our objective and key result. And if it's not, then we should question, why are we actually doing this if it isn't helping us move towards our end of year objectives? I like to think of objectives in 3 primary focus areas or themes. Now, when you get a lot more than 3 from an OKR pillar standpoint, they do become a little bit less memorable and hard to keep track of. So I like to encourage teams that are just starting out to have no more than 3 objective statements. And if you're wondering where to focus, think about themes related to your people, your internal culture, your processes, the standard ways of operating, the ways you make decisions, the ways you communicate internally, and your company's profit. Even if you're a nonprofit organization, you still need to raise funds in order to support your mission or your cause. So how you make money and how you can be successful financially is that last pillar. I'll go into a little bit more detail about key results. So key results are very different than some of our traditional metrics that we might be used to having, which are, KPIs or just data points. If you look at your current metrics or your current strategic goals or KPIs, you will likely see we want to achieve this number of dollars in sales, or we want to acquire X number of customers, or we want to make this amount of money this year, or hire this amount of new team members. And it's kind of a one and done sort of metric when you think about it that way. You either have achieved it or you haven't achieved it. With key results, as I mentioned before, we want to look at the X to Y comparison. So where are we now and where do we want to go? And that allows us to iteratively check that metric throughout the year to determine how close we're getting to meeting our ideal target. These units of measurements can be dollars, percentages, numbers. Even in the beginning, you may have some qualitative metrics that will help you determine, in addition to your quantitative metrics, how on track you are. The other big piece with key results is that we want to focus more on the outcome and the value, not on the output. So the difference between this, I like to describe with the headlight, tail light mentality. So the tail light mentality looks in the past. It says, have we accomplished this or have we not? And if we haven't accomplished it, then we better scramble to figure out new ways to achieve our goal going forward. The headlight mentality projects us into the future by looking at the value or thinking about the outcome. So when you are designing your metrics, think about, what do we hope to see by looking at this metric? Are we trying to figure out if we accomplish something? And if that's the case, it might be better served as an initiative or a project that we can check off the list and say, yes, we're doing this. Or is it a metric that indicates how well we are progressing towards our objective statements? I will give you a brief example to help illustrate this. So if we have a company that has a vision of raising enough money to serve all people in the United States affected by a certain cause, some key themes that might relate to that vision statement are raising awareness, increasing donations, optimizing processes, and those can all then be pulled back into that people, process, profit 3 pillars that I had mentioned before, or they might just be additional key themes that you end up going after. So one example objective statement from this could be an organization that collaborates closely with corporations to raise funding. Some key result metrics could be from X to Y dollars raised from large corporations per month, from X to Y corporate partnerships that are established, or from X to Y percentage of employees at corporate partners that are donating through paycheck deductions. And then you may look at some prioritized initiatives, which are, again, the tasks, reaching out to new corporations, sharing the mission and vision on social media, enhancing your presentation to entice people to contribute. There might be a variety of different initiatives that are determined on a weekly basis or a monthly basis within your team collaboration meetings to help you determine whether or not you're on track towards meeting those key result metrics and therefore helping you meet your objectives. Hopefully that gave you a very brief flavor of what objectives and key results are and how they are so beneficial to your organization. This last slide has direct links to additional learning if you are interested in exploring more on the topic. And of course, I encourage you to reach out to me if you are interested in learning how to implement OKR methodology with your team and help you remove the barrier points or obstacles that you may currently be experiencing when trying to achieve your strategic objectives.